Across Africa, an extraordinary idea stretches roughly 8,000 kilometers across the Sahel. It is called the Great Green Wall. But there is something strange about this wall. There is no concrete. There is no continuous line of trees. And desertification is not simply the Sahara moving south like a giant wave of sand. The real problem is the land itself. Across parts of the Sahel, vegetation can disappear, exposed soil can erode, and degraded ground can become hard enough that when precious rain finally arrives, water can run rapidly across the surface, instead of remaining long enough to infiltrate effectively. So before trees can survive, the landscape itself has to be rebuilt. Workers reshape damaged ground into pits and crescent-shaped catchments. They slow runoff. They hold rainfall on the land for longer. They protect surviving vegetation. They allow old root systems to regenerate. And in some programs, machinery can prepare large areas of degraded ground far faster than people working entirely by hand. Then they wait for the most important moment of all: rain. If the system works, more water remains where vegetation has a chance to use it. Grass can return, shoots can emerge, seedlings can survive, and one damaged patch of land can begin functioning again. Now repeat different versions of that process across hundreds of projects in an initiative implemented across 22 African countries. That is the real Great Green Wall. Not one continuous wall of trees, but a continental attempt to restore millions of individual landscapes. The Great Green Wall began with an image powerful enough to draw on a map. A green belt stretching across Africa from the Atlantic side of the continent toward the east. The African Union launched the initiative in 2007. Its continental ambition is commonly described as stretching roughly 8,000 kilometers across the Sahel. By 2030, the initiative aims to restore 100 million hectares of degraded land, create 10 million green jobs, and sequester around 250 million tons of carbon. 100 million hectares is roughly 1 million square kilometers. But imagining one gigantic forest crossing Africa is misleading. The Great Green Wall has evolved far beyond the idea of a single belt of planted trees. It is a mosaic of landscapes. One area may be restored grassland. Another may combine crops and trees through agroforestry. Another may regenerate native woody vegetation. Another may focus on managed grazing land. Another may use small earthworks to slow runoff and conserve rainfall. And another may depend on vegetation that was never completely dead in the first place. That means the Great Green Wall does not have one construction method. It does not even have one final physical shape, because the problem also changes from place to place. Desertification is not simply an existing desert expanding like a moving wall. It is degradation within dryland landscapes. Vegetation can thin out. Wind and water can erode exposed soil. Poor land management and overgrazing can add pressure. Climatic variation and drought can make recovery harder. And productive land can gradually lose its ability to support farming, grazing, and vegetation. To understand how restoration works, forget the 8,000-kilometer map for a moment. Look at one damaged field. The surface may be hard and crusted. Vegetation may be sparse. Almost nothing protects the soil from wind, intense sunlight, or sudden rainfall. Now the rain arrives. At first, that sounds like exactly what the land needs. But on a badly degraded surface, water can begin moving almost immediately. Small flows join together. Runoff moves downhill. And part of the rainfall leaves the site before it has enough time to soak deeply into the soil. That runoff can also carry loose surface material with it. The landscape is dry, but even when water finally arrives, the land may still fail to keep enough of it. That creates a difficult feedback loop. Less vegetation means less protection for the surface. Less protection can increase runoff and erosion. That can reduce the opportunity for moisture to remain available to new vegetation. And without vegetation, the ground stays exposed. So the first thing that has to be rebuilt is not a forest. It is the relationship between water and soil. One of the oldest ways of changing that relationship is surprisingly simple: reshape the ground. Across the Sahel, different forms of rainwater harvesting structures have been used for generations. One example is the zaï-style planting pit. These are small depressions opened in degraded ground. The pit concentrates runoff and creates a small zone where moisture and vegetation may establish more effectively. But over larger areas, another shape becomes especially striking from above: the half-moon. A half-moon is a shallow, crescent-shaped earth structure built across the direction of runoff. When rainwater moves across the ground, the low earthen ridge slows it. Water collects inside the crescent. Instead of immediately continuing downhill, it has more time to infiltrate. The structure does not create new rainfall. It changes what happens to the rainfall that already exists. That distinction is critical. In a dry environment, the first engineering problem may not be how to bring in more water. It may be how to stop the water already falling from leaving too quickly. Now scale that idea up. A few pits can be dug by hand. Communities can create many more. But restoring large areas of severely degraded ground introduces another problem: time. In some Great Green Wall support programs, mechanized restoration has been used to speed up land preparation. Large tractors can pull specialized equipment across hard, crusted ground, creating repeated water harvesting structures across large areas. In FAO-supported programs, a Delfino plow has been reported to prepare more than 15 hectares in a day. But the machine is not building all 8,000 kilometers of the Great Green Wall. And it is not planting a forest behind itself. It is scaling one specific part of the restoration process. Reshape the surface, create places where runoff can slow, give rainfall more chances to stay. Then move to another section. The Great Green Wall begins to look less like a tree planting campaign and more like earthworks. But the earthwork itself is only the beginning. Once water remains on the land for longer, biological processes have a better chance to take over. More retained moisture can give grasses, shrubs, crops, and roots a better opportunity to establish. As vegetation cover returns, it can help protect exposed soil from erosion. Roots can stabilize the surface. Plant material can return organic matter to the ground. And over multiple seasons, land that once shed water rapidly may begin functioning differently. None of this happens instantly. The earthwork may be created quickly. The landscape can take seasons to respond. That creates a strange partnership between engineering and biology. People modify the physical conditions. Then water, roots, vegetation, and time determine what happens next. And that leads to one of the biggest misconceptions about a project called the Great Green Wall. Not every restored tree begins as a new seedling. In parts of the Sahel, ground that looks almost empty can still contain living root systems or old tree stumps. New shoots may emerge from those roots. If they are repeatedly cut or grazed, the vegetation may never recover. But if selected shoots are protected and managed, the plant can begin growing again. This is the logic behind approaches such as farmer-managed natural regeneration. Several shoots may emerge from an existing stump. A farmer can select the strongest stems. Competing shoots can be pruned. The selected stems are protected, and over time, a tree can return from a living root system that was already in the ground. Sometimes the fastest way to grow a tree is not to plant one. The living root system is already there. Instead of forcing every site to begin again, from a nursery seedling, restoration can sometimes work with vegetation that has already survived the local environment. But this does not mean tree planting disappears from the Great Green Wall. It means restoration has more than one tool. In other places, seeds and seedlings remain important. Nurseries can provide locally adapted woody species. Grasses can help cover exposed soil. Farmers may combine trees with crops. Pastoral landscapes may focus on restoring grass, shrubs, and other vegetation useful for livestock. Some sites may rely heavily on natural regeneration. Others may require planting. Many may combine several approaches. There is no single Great Green Wall construction method because there is no single Sahel landscape. And by this point, almost everything has been prepared. The soil has been reshaped. Catchments are ready. Vegetation has been protected or planted. But none of it matters until the sky cooperates. Then the rain arrives. Before the rain, the restoration structures can look almost pointless. Crescents of earth carved into dusty ground. Small pits, sparse chutes, bare soil between them. Then clouds build over the landscape. Rain reaches the surface. On untreated crusted ground, runoff begins moving downslope. Thin sheets of water become small channels. But across treated ground, some of that runoff reaches the half-moons and other catchments. The flow slows. Water spreads through the shallow basin. It begins collecting behind the earthen ridge. The soil darkens. And instead of immediately continuing downhill, some of that water has more time to move into the ground. This is the moment the structures were built for. They do not manufacture water. They control where some of it goes when it finally arrives. That extra time can increase the chance for water to infiltrate and remain available in the soil after surface runoff has passed. Then the rain stops, and the real test begins. Can enough of that moisture remain in the root zone long enough to help vegetation establish? Weeks and months later, success does not arrive as a wall of giant trees. It may begin with grass, small patches of ground cover, new shoots, surviving seedlings, shrubs, then scattered trees. The land may still look brown, the climate is still dry. The Sahel does not become a rainforest. And that is not the goal. A restored dry land can still look dry. What changes is how the land functions. More vegetation can protect exposed surfaces. Roots can help stabilize soil. Better ground cover can reduce erosion. Restoration can improve the conditions for farming and grazing. Trees and shrubs may provide shade, fodder, fuel wood, food, or other products depending on the landscape. The same limited rainfall can become more useful because more of it remains where vegetation can benefit. Success does not mean turning the Sahel into a jungle. It means making dry land work as dry land again. But getting vegetation to return is only part of the challenge. Keeping it alive can be harder. Young shoots may be eaten by livestock. Regenerating trees may be cut. Water harvesting structures can erode or fill with sediment. Protection can disappear after a project ends. And a recovering site can begin degrading again. That is why local management becomes part of the infrastructure. Communities may organize how restored land is protected and used. Grazing may have to be managed. Young shoots may need protection. Earth structures may need maintenance. Regenerating trees may need pruning. And local people need long-term reasons to keep restored land productive. This is where the Great Green Wall becomes fundamentally different from conventional construction. A bridge can be handed over as a finished structure. A restored landscape has to keep growing and being managed. The Great Green Wall is not finished when a tree survives its first rain. It has to survive the years after it. Now return to the continental scale. One field is restored, then another. One village protects regenerating trees. Another project reshapes degraded grazing land. Another establishes agroforestry. Another restores grasses. Another uses half-moons or other rainwater harvesting structures. From the ground, these sites do not form one visible wall. That is the point. The Great Green Wall exists through repetition. One half-moon is not the Great Green Wall. Neither is one forest. Neither is one country. The Continental Project exists because thousands of local interventions are linked by the same broad ambition to restore degraded land. The initiative is now implemented across 22 African countries, while 11 countries formed the core intervention zone tracked in the earlier implementation framework. By the end of 2025, the Great Green Wall Accelerator reported 389 registered projects. But there will be no day when two construction teams meet in the middle and place the final tree. There is no final gap to close. success is distributed across landscapes. And that creates a problem that is much harder to solve than measuring an ordinary megaproject. How do you know when a living wall is actually being built? With a bridge, engineers can measure the length completed. With a dam, they can measure storage capacity. With a railway, they can count kilometers of track. A continental restoration initiative has to measure something more complicated. How much land is actually under restoration? Does vegetation survive? Has land productivity improved? How much carbon has been sequestered or emissions mitigated? How many jobs have been created? How many people have benefited? And will those results still exist years later? As of the end of 2025, the Great Green Wall Accelerator reported 389 registered projects, but fewer than 90 contain data compatible with the harmonized reporting structure. Within the project reporting available through that system, reported results included about 1.66 million hectares under restoration, roughly 24 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent sequestered or mitigated, around 4.6 million jobs, and more than 46 million beneficiaries. Those numbers do not describe the entire Great Green Wall. They describe results captured through the available project reporting within that newer system. Older assessments reported different cumulative figures, but they were produced under different reporting approaches. Putting those numbers directly beside the newer harmonized data can therefore be misleading. To measure the Great Green Wall consistently, hundreds of projects operating in different countries and landscapes have to report restoration through compatible standards. Measuring an 8,000-kilometer living wall may be almost as complicated as restoring it. And this is where the project reaches its real test. At local scale, many of the restoration techniques are already well established. Rainwater harvesting can slow runoff and improve infiltration. Natural regeneration can bring existing woody vegetation back. Planting can establish adapted species where it is needed. Grasses can protect exposed soil. Agroforestry can combine production with tree cover. Communities can manage restored land. The continental challenge is scale. Different countries have different rainfall patterns, different soils, different farming and grazing systems, different institutions, different funding conditions, different security conditions, and every restored hectare has to remain restored long after the first intervention is complete. The Great Green Wall began with an image simple enough to draw on a map, a green line across Africa. But over time, the initiative evolved beyond the idea of one continuous belt of planted trees. The real wall is made from rainfall held on the land, from soil that can absorb more of it, from roots allowed to regenerate, from grasses protecting exposed surfaces, from farms, trees, grazing systems, and restored natural vegetation, and from communities managing those landscapes season after season. One restored field cannot restore the Sahel, neither can 1 million seedlings if the land beneath them cannot support them. The Great Green Wall's hardest challenge is not planting a line across a map. It is repeating successful restoration across enough landscapes and keeping those landscapes functioning. Its success will not be measured by how green the line looks from space, but by how much land beneath that ambition can work again.